to the Arena Hero. This is David from Unison Games Cafe. You are watching this video because you are either a loyal subscriber to our YouTube channel, of which we thank you, or you scanned the QR code on the back of your custom starter deck. Either way, this video is meant to inform you of this deck's contents, some strategy on how to play it, and ways to upgrade it with cards you've purchased from your local game store, or that you have in your collection. In this video, we'll be discussing the Runeblade class. As you can see here, this is Viserai Runeblood. More so, this video will be a great resource to those who are looking into some insight on how to play the class, how they function in the game, and some strategies you can take advantage of. Without further ado, let's open this up and get started. Alright, when you open your deck, you'll be presented with a ready-to-go constructed deck here in this bag. You have everything you need to play a game of Flesh and Blood right here. The rest of these cards are the remaining cards that make up the playset of every common for this hero, Runeblade, from Arcane Rising. That's the set that he was introduced in. Let's spread out the contents of this constructed deck and see what we got. Alright guys, here is our constructed deck. I know it's a lot to focus on, but first things first, let's focus on the hero himself, Viserai the Runeblade, and the Nebula Blade weapon that he uses. So, Runeblade and Wizard from Arcane Rising are the beginning of arcane damage in this game. Now, arcane damage is done from the Runeblade from things called Runechants. There's a lot of abilities. His ability inherently, and the weapon, which is on the back end of this Runechant token, right there, produce auras called Runechants. And simply, a Runechant says, when you play an attack action card or attack with a weapon, the Runechant gets destroyed and it deals 1 arcane damage. So the strategy of the Runeblade is to create Runechants, get a good amount of them into your field, 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be, whatever you can do, because when you do attack with a attack action or your weapon here, the Nebula Blade, those Runechants are all going to explode simultaneously, and they all are going to do their own instance of 1 damage. That's why Arcane Barrier 1, or Arcane Barrier 2, or Arcane Barrier 3, any of the arcane barriers your opponent is going to have to pump resources into to block every instance of those Runechants. They're all separate instances of damage. So, generally speaking, the Runeblade and the Wizard, that's kind of how they're going to be doing damage. The Runeblade is a little bit more of a arcane and martial hero. I think of the Red Mage from Final Fantasy. He uses magic, uses his sword, stuff like that. But the Nebula Blade only comes in for 1 damage unless you've already played a non-attack action card. You'll notice it doesn't have to be a Runeblade one. But if you do play a non-attack action card, this gets +3 until end of turn, and if it hits, it creates a Runechant. Now, when this hits, the Runechant that's created isn't going to blow up to this because it's already attacked with it, but you're setting yourself up for next and future turns to amass as many Runechants as you can. You can have big turns where you're attacking with a physical attack action for 8, and 8 Runechants are coming in at the same time for a total of 16 damage, but you're splitting it amongst arcane damage and power. Really makes it difficult for your opponent to block, and a great way to push damage, especially in later parts of the turn. Now, Viserai has an ability, whenever you play a Runeblade card, if you already played another non-attack action card this turn, creates a Runechant. So what you're trying to do with Viserai is you're trying to play a non-attack action. Mauvrion Skies we'll look at. This is an action. It's a non-attack action because it doesn't have attack down here. So if you were to play Mauvrion Skies to start your turn, it has go again, so you're going to get your action back. If you were to then attack with a Runeblade card, or if you were to play another Runeblade non-attack, let's say you play 2 Mauvrion Skies, the second one is going to create that Runechant token. So you already have a Runechant token because you played the second Mauvrion Skies. This says the next Runeblade attack action card you play this turn gets go again, and if it hits, create 3 Runechant tokens. So if you can get a couple non-attack actions before you attack, you can amass some Runechants for that attack. So again, just to quickly go over it, let's say you were to play something like a Mauvrion Skies, non-attack action. When you play your Spellblade Assault, it's gonna, because it's a Runeblade card, you're gonna create a Runechant token. And then the Spellblade Assault itself says create 2 Runechant tokens. So you're gonna actually have 3 Runechants ready to go for the next time that you attack. That's what you're trying to do with Viserai and the Runeblade. And if you were to play something like that Mauvrion Skies you just saw, this is going to go up to 4 damage when it hits, creates a token. You'll notice a lot of the cards that we're going to have in this deck will lower cost based on the amount of Runechants you have. So having a few to start the turn is going to help you with the resource management as well. Let's take a look at the equipment in this deck. Let's check out some of the equipment here in our constructed deck. The namesake card is the Crown of Dichotomy. This is the Runeblade equipment. It is your head slot. Gives you an action, costs 1, destroy it, put target Runeblade attack action card and non-attack action card from your graveyard on top of your deck in any order. You also have Arcane Barrier for the mirror or against Wizard, but getting 2 cards that combo well together, like a Mauvrion Skies and a Spellblade Assault, to put it on top of your deck. Super cool card. In the arm slot, we have a Null Rune Glove and an Iron Rock Gauntlet, whether you're going against physical damage or arcane damage. Now, in the chest slot, we've got Null Rune Robe for that same arcane damage, but we also have the Heart and Cross Strap. So this is from the first set, Welcome to Wraith, but I feel like it serves a really good purpose in this deck. As an action, you can destroy this. The next attack action card you play this turn costs 2 less. Cards like Spellblade Assault, which are like your bread and butter attacks, making this free, creating Runechants off of that, could be a really big swing turn. Or if you have a lot of non-attack actions in a turn with Go Again, being able to get all those out and then making your attack cost cheaper, and then attacking, blowing up all those Runechants. That's the way to go. Heart and Cross Strap is really cool. Going into your leg slot, you've got another piece of Iron Rot for the defense, and Mage Master Boots. Mage Master Boots costs 1, you can destroy it. The next non-attack action card you play this turn gets Go Again. Great to combo this card with cards like Read the Runes, because Read the Runes for 0 creates 3 Runechant tokens, but it doesn't give you any action points. If you're able to give this Go Again, you could, in theory, Read the Runes, play another Read the Runes because you have Go Again, 3 Runechants off of that, 3 Runechants off of that. You will trigger Viserai, because you just played a Runeblade card after playing a non-attack action card, giving you another one, and now you have 7 Runechants ready to go for a future turn, or if you're able to have another action point, a big attack this turn. So Mage Master Boots, great tool to have a really explosive turn. Let's take a look at some of the cards you're going to get in the constructed deck. All right, guys, we're going to start with the rares, and we're going to start with one of the coolest cards from Crucible of War, and that is Mauvrion Skies. It really does everything you want it to do. Gives you a non-attack action, so that's going to start the first half of Viserai. It is a Runeblade card, so if this is the second card you've played, you're going to get that Runechant off of Viserai's ability. But the next Runeblade attack action card you play this turn gets Go Again, giving you Go Again on cards like Spellblade Assault are super good. And if it hits, create 3 Runechant tokens. Something like Spellblade Assault having Go Again, the fact that if it hits and creates 3, but it also innately creates 2, getting 5 off of that, plus you're going to get a trigger off of Viserai to get 6. You now have 6 Runechants. You have more Runechants now than what you started with. That is a big, big turn, and it's all because Mauvrion Skies is awesome. Looking at some of the other rares in this deck, we just saw Spellblade Assault is going to be one of your bread and butter. If anything, just the fact it's going to create 2 Runechants, it's not contingent on hitting, so this is just going to create 2 Runechants, set you up for additional turn, get some damage in there. We also have a couple auras. Oath of the Arknight, your next Runeblade attack this turn gets +1, so that's going to work for either the Nebula Blade or any of the attack actions we have, and it's just going to create a Runechant token. So this is going to give us a Runechant token to begin with so that we have some arcane damage going. You have the Go Again ability, and it's a blue resource, which you might need. And then last but not least, for rares, we've got Reduced to Runechant, which is a really cool defense reaction. It costs less to play, so something like hitting with the Nebula Blade and creating a Runechant, it's going to make the Reduced to Runechant free. and it creates a Runechant itself and blocks for 4 as a defense reaction. So now you'll have 2 Runechants so that when it comes back to your turn, you've got 2 Runechants ready to go. You can use something like Amplify the Arknight or any of your other abilities to utilize those Runechants on your turn. Those are the rares. Let's take a look at some of the commons that you're going to get in the deck. First things first, we'll look at a preview card from Crucible of War, and that is Meet and Greet. Just like Mauvrion Skies, it does everything that you want from Runeblade. Only costs 1. If it hits, it creates a Runechant token. And if you have dealt or deal arcane damage to an opposing hero's turn, it gets Go Again. If you have at least 1 Runechant, Meet and Greet is going to give itself Go Again because you're going to trigger that Runechant, you're going to do that arcane damage. Because it's your priority, you can have that arcane damage hit before this is resolved. So then that second bit where have you dealt arcane damage this turn, this is going to get Go Again, followed up with a bigger attack. That is Meet and Greet, cool card from Crucible of War. One of your bigger attacks in this deck is going to be Amplify the Arknight. Even the blues has an attack power of 4. This is going to lower in costs based on the amount of Runechants you have. So if you have a Read the Runes turn, you create 3 Runechants. This is going to make this attack free and trigger those Runechants because it is a attack action. Another cool card is Drawn to the Dark Dimension. Also costs less based on the amount of Runechants you have, and you draw a card off of it. So not only are you going to get some arcane damage, you've got some physical damage, and you're going to reload your hand. Super cool card there. Rune Flash, the reds, cost 1 less to play for each Runechant. I see that you guys are probably noticing a trend here. And it has Go Again, which I think is big for the Runeblade. This deck specifically, that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to just have one big attack or take a turn off and set up with Runechants. We're looking to be able to attack for 4. Hopefully the Rune Flash was the second card we played, so we have a Runechant from Viserai's ability. Have the Go Again. Then, because we already dealt some damage, follow up with the Go Again with Meet and Greet, which then itself has Go Again, and see if we can have multiple attacks. There's a lot of people who don't know if you can do Runeblade aggro, but that's kind of what we're trying to do. The little cousin of Spellblade Assault is Spellblade Strike, and we've got a good amount of those in the deck. Here's the full play set. Same idea. It costs less, so it's only cost 1. It's a little bit less to damage, but it creates a Runechant token. Again, we're trying to set up our turns to create these Runechants so that if we have Go Again, we can continue to damage them on our turn. Bloodspill Invocation is one of our first auras in the deck. This has Go Again, so we're going to be able to attack again. Also great for starting the first half of the Viserai ability. But when an attack action card you control hits, destroy this to create 3 Runechant tokens. Doesn't get any better than that. You play a Bloodspill Invocation with Go Again, and now you're coming in with something like an Amplify the Arknight. If this happens to hit, you're going to create 3 Runechant tokens. Super good. If you can get this after a Go Again, so let's say you came in with Meet and Greet, and they expend some resources to block that. Because you have Go Again, if you were to play Bloodspill Invocation and then attack with another attack, there's a good chance that one's going to hit and create the Runechants that you're looking for. So that is a super cool aura. You do not want that aura to go into your opponent's turn, because if you take damage, it will be destroyed. One of the coolest setup cards, and that's why we have the entire playset here, is Read the Runes. The biggest thing about Read the Runes is that it doesn't have Go Again. We have some things for that. But it creates Runechants. Blue is 1, yellow is 2, red is 3, and it costs 0. Great setup card. If this is the last card in your hand, which it only defends for 2, so maybe it will be. Awesome for just a setup turn. If you're able to play a couple cards, maybe something that has Go Again, and then a Read the Runes, you can really pump out some Runechants, because this will be a Runeblade action for the second half of Viserai. So not only would it create 3 Runechants, but Viserai's ability will trigger, creating an additional Runechant. So Read the Runes, super good. Now, if you're able to play Read the Runes on the back end of a Lead the Charge, that's what we're looking to do. So what we have here is Lead the Charge. Lead the Charge is going to give you the ability to get action points back when you have some of these setup cards. not specifically Read the Runes, but let's say you're to play Lead the Charge and then a Bloodspill Invocation, which itself has Go Again, you're going to gain an action point off Lead the Charge, so now you have 2 action points. Your first action point could be another setup card like Read the Runes, and then your last action point could be that attack. So if you've got a turn like this where you go Lead the Charge, Bloodspill Invocation, which is going to trigger Viserai. So here's 1 Runechant. Next attack action is going to give you 3, but we got 1 Runechant. Play Read the Runes, Viserai trigger. So now we're up to 2 Runechants. Read the Runes gives me 3. Up to 5 Runechants. And now we play something like Amplify the Arknight for free. This is going to come in for 6. If it hits, it's going to give us 3 Runechants from that. But we also have 5 damage from Runechants going through. If you happen to put a Meet the Greet on the back end of that, Meet the Greet is going to have Go Again because you dealt Arcane damage. If it hits, it creates a Runechant off of itself. It creates 3 off of Bloodspill, so you're going to have 4 with Go Again, and then possibly something like an Amplify the Arknight. You can have some really explosive turns on the back end of a Lead the Charge. So that's why we have these in the deck. Last but not least, we have a generic attack called Rifting. Rifting costs 2, comes in for 6, which is a big attack. And if it hits, you can play your next non-attack action card as an instant. So this is also a great way to attack for some damage, try to get your opponent to block this 6 damage, and then off the back end, if it happens to hit, play something like a Read the Runes, give yourself 3 Runechants, set yourself up for next turn. Again, something like a Reduce the Runechant in the rares that we went over right here will cost less to play if you have any Runechants. So hitting with a Rifting and playing one of your non-attack actions could be really good. It could also get you into a really explosive turn if you hit with it and play something like a Lead the Charge and go into that combo we just talked about, because you're going to be gaining additional action points and Go Agains. So Rifting, a really good generic action for the Runeblade. Let's talk about some ways that we can upgrade this deck. It might seem pretty obvious, and if you get any in the Arcane Rising booster packs, your Viserai specialization of Arknight Ascendancy is one of the go-to cards for Runeblade. It is his specialization. It costs 1 less to play for each Runechant you control. If you've been following along with our deck tech here, there's many times where we can get 4, 5, 6 Runechants, lowering the cost of Arknight Ascendancy to play. It has Dominate, so it's probably going to do damage. And if you happen to have any Runechants that explode while this attacks, that's just added gravy. But when Arknight Ascendancy hits, it creates X Runechant tokens, where X is the damage dealt by Arknight Ascendancy. So best case scenario probably for your opponent is that they defend with 3. It does 2 damage, giving yourself 2 additional Runechants after the ones that you've already probably used with attacking with this, setting yourself up for future turns, or if you happen to have Go Again, something like a Lead the Charge into an Arknight Ascendancy is super good because you'll have additional Runechants to use for an additional attack, lead up with Meet and Greet, go into a Spellblade Assault, what have you. Another great card from Arcane Rising, and what you could really build your deck around, is Mordred Tide. Until the end of turn, if you would create a Runechant token, instead create that many +1 and Go Again. Something like a Lead the Charge into a Mordred Tide is one of the biggest things that you could do. Even just baseline Mordred Tide, then Go Again, into something like a Meet and Greet that gives Go Again, or a Spellblade Strike that intrinsically has Go Again. The more times that you can trigger Viserai this turn, you're going to get 2 Runechants off of all of those abilities. Even just Mordred Tide into a Read the Runes is going to give you 4 off the Read the Runes, 2 off the trigger of Viserai. That's just a good use of Mordred Tide right off the bat, giving yourself 6 Runechant tokens, setting yourself up for a future turn, a really big Arknight Ascendancy, or even Amplify the Arknight. Those are a few cards I would be on the lookout for from your local game store, or you can head to www.unisongamescafe.com and see if we have them in stock. Other than that, this has been the starter strategy video for Runeblade. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Flesh and Blood content, and we will see you in the arena.